Darwinism and the evolutionary model is now becoming like the old story of the emperor's new clothes. People fear to publicly question it, but in private they do. And many of them have gone ahead and stepped out and put their names on lists of people who publicly declare that the Darwinian model does not account for what we see in nature today. So don't bother with telling me that all of those people are kooks. You know, we're talking to PhD level scientists from, you name it, universities and such. And, you know, deal with arguments, don't deal with your opinions on people's personalities and personal worth.
I have to admit this is the first time I've heard a theist claim that nobody is speaking against science because they are too afraid. This is ridiculous, because science relies on doubt and skepticism and questioning the ideas of others. The idea that science is intimidating for those not to speak out is absurd. Fear is the main proponent for the spreading of a religion. The punishment for apostasy is death. If that isn't oppression through fear, I don't know what is.
If there is no, this is question 5, if there is no objective standard of right or wrong, which was furnished by the Creator, how can anything be wrong?
Well, this is just wrong also. Atheism does not mean that we are not moral agents. Morals are produced through simple psychology and our observation of our species society. We see that our actions have an effect, and if this effect is seen as positive for society, then we will continue in doing so. If this act brings about negative consequences, then we will refrain from doing so, or make sure that this act is not brought about again in society. We do not need a benevolent guide in order to live a life. A good saying to remember is, do not ponder those who do not need God to be good, but instead pity those who do. If you are getting your morals from the agent that wrote the Bible, then I am sincerely worried about you. We can see that the morals we see in society are no way derived from a holy book, apart from those imposed by fear, and that is obviously no way to lead a good society. Because if the morals in the Bible were executed by a single person in society, then that person would be seen as socially incapable and would be detained. This is evidence that we are not getting our morals from any way in the Bible, and we do not need religion for morality. Yes, the Bible has 613 commandments. 10 of these are deemed socially good, and the rest are never mentioned because they are not good. But the defense that follows this is because the bad commandments are in the Old Testament and should therefore not be seen into. But then so are the so-called good commandments, which are even in themselves a bit dodgy. Why are we cherry-picking these commandments and not the others?
What can you point to that says why murdering babies is any less desirable a way to increase food supply than harvesting fruit from trees? Question 6. Which is the logically defensible position? That matter eternally existed, or else it came into existence all by itself for no reason. And then it arranged itself into extraordinarily complex living systems, including not only mechanisms but huge amounts of information that's needed for life to function. This being against everything that we've ever observed in science, where things move towards disorder left on their own, as opposed to moving towards more order. Or the other position that an eternal self-existing being, definition of God, infinite intelligence, infinite power, created life, and the information systems necessary for life to exist all at once.
First of all, no real scientist or scientific theory is claiming that any of this matter came into existence or it arranged itself so that life may be formed through a random process, so this is initially scientifically wrong again. The evidence that science is providing is more reliable to simply believing in faith that a mythical being, that has no evidence to support its existence, created us in a universe too large for us to explore, and on an earth that is environmentally dangerous for us to live on. He created us with so many biological flaws such as diseases. The Creator did not provide enough evidence for the more rational of the species to believe in him, and so will be sent to eternal torture as well. I think I know which one I'd rather side with.
Firstly, I'm not sure any scientist is claiming or will ever claim the first defensible position, if it is even defensible, because it's simply wrong, and I'm rather intrigued as to what your sources are exactly for this unscientific information. And secondly, the next defensible position is yours of creationism, and I clearly don't agree with that. This is another bad argument or question. It is a fallacious argument. You put down your opposition as ridiculous, and offer another possibility, which is your own, as the obvious superior. Not only are you putting down the first standpoint, but the information you are using is simply wrong, so therefore this is a very weak argument to put forward, and does not even require an answer.
7. Natural selection requires that something be alive and reproducing for it to for natural selection to operate. It cannot be alive and reproducing without a huge amount of DNA operating the life functions inside the cell. So what came first? The code in the DNA or the organism that depends on it for life? How can natural selection produce something that is a prerequisite for natural selection to operate?
I would like to point out that what you are saying is scientifically incorrect. So, to paraphrase your question, what you are actually asking is this: how can natural selection produce something that is a prerequisite for natural selection to operate? Well, that's like asking, how could God make time when time was needed for God to exist before it?
Number 8. If scientists almost totally accept that a signal from outer space containing information that could be interpreted as a string of prime numbers would be proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, why would they not accept that the information coding in the nucleus of the simplest cells, DNA, which is equivalent to the information in a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica, was the result of intelligence?
This is a misuse of data. A cell may have the same amount of information stored in it, which is equal to the information stored in a full set of Encyclopedia Britannica, but it does not have the same intelligence which is held in these said encyclopedias. The cell needs to have this amount of information to be able to operate. The same could be applied to many other cells and just life in general. But still, let's work upon the principles that anything with intelligence needs a creator. Then why does God, the most intelligent and complex thing in all of everything, not have a creator? Now to refer to the signal of a string of prime numbers. Like the cell, the prime numbers are a sign of information. But unlike the cell, it is a sign of intelligence. The prime numbers are important, even special to mathematics. To learn of their existence, a level of intelligence is required. Also, we use mathematics to send messages out into space. Do you really think aliens would speak the same language as us? Also, you must bear in mind that it is a signal. It would require equal intelligence as us to be able to transmit such a signal.
Number 9. What if God is real, as described in the Bible, and you have to stand before Him and give an account for your life? Do you have a list of reasons already for why you never accepted Him?
This is Pascal's wager, which is a seriously flawed theory. I could ask you as well, what if Zeus, what if Wotan, what if Thor, Allah are real then? Would you be prepared to answer why you didn't believe in the right God? And I can assure you your answer would be almost exactly the same as mine. There just was not enough evidence, or the evidence that I observed pointed me in a different direction. If you do not answer that, then you probably say, well, I was brought up in a Christian family and society, therefore I've never known to question the authority, and I've never known about you, and it just didn't seem right to believe in you. And if I were to having to explain a life story to my supposed supernatural God, then he obviously was not omnipotent, or neither was he omniscient.
If every religion claims to be right, just as much as the Christians do, then how can I truly ever choose? What if I was a Protestant rather than a Catholic? Shall I be sent to hell for just that? What if I was indoctrinated into it as a young Muslim girl? I was brought up in that family, in that culture. I never had a choice in the matter, and if I wanted to give up my religion, I'd be executed. You see, there is too much confusion. and the chances of picking the wrong God is greater than picking the correct one. Even then, I believe if God existed, his identity and title and name, it's all irrelevant. It is a message and a purpose a God has, which is important. So that would be my reasoning.
Number 10. If I answered all your objections to your satisfaction, would you submit your life to Jesus or recognize God as your Creator?